Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tammy Neal. We have some educators here from across the country. We wanted to come together tonight and have a conversation about facilitating at Edcamps. We have all either been to Edcamps or helped organize Edcamps. And the one issue that we have is finding facilitators who understand how to facilitate. So we wanted to have a conversation tonight about what that means and how people don't have to be afraid of the word facilitating. And so we have some folks who have facilitated, we have some folks who have organized, and we have some folks who have done both. And so we're just going to go around real quick. Who would like to introduce themselves first?
I can start.
Okay.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Makisha. I'm an instructional technology specialist in Atlanta, Georgia. And I have facilitated at two Edcamps, two different sessions at two different Edcamps. So I'm excited to share and I'm excited to learn.
And then next we have over in Las Vegas.
Hi everyone, my name is Heidi and I'm an elementary school teacher here in Las Vegas, Nevada.
And from the great state of Texas.
Hey everyone, I'm Amanda Rogers and I am a digital learning coach here in Texas.
And last but not least, from the Jersey Shore.
Hello, Justin Schleider here, physical education and health teacher. I am on the organizing board for Edcamps, New Jersey, and I've been a facilitator at numerous Edcamps around the New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, tri-state area.
We have some questions, and we're just going to go around the circle, and guys, just jump in where you feel, it's just a conversation, just like at Edcamp. And, nobody is the expert in the room. So our first question, why are facilitators important at Edcamps?
I'll answer. I think facilitation or facilitators at Edcamps are important just to guide the conversation. I think that's where facilitating and presenting get mixed up, is as a facilitator, you're guiding through questioning instead of presenting and giving the information. So it's very important to have facilitators in Edcamp to make sure that the sessions don't turn into presentations, sit and get style.
I agree with Amanda. I think it's important for the facilitator to ask questions to allow the conversation to dig deeper, depending on the knowledge within the room. Because everyone is as smart as the room, and we need to make sure that we allow everyone to share so we could grow and learn together and not just having one or two people take over the entire session.
And also facilitators are going to get everybody to have their voice, right? So when introverts come in, they might not be comfortable. You might have people who have never been to an ed camp, or maybe they don't know much about the subject. A really good facilitator is going to draw out that and answer, or a little bit of nugget of, I call them little gold nuggets from people where they might not know it. So they're going to get the whole room comfortable, and they're going to make sure every voice is heard.
So I'll add my thoughts to that. Just from listening to you all, I think those are really good points. I think that's going to be really helpful to me, because not really understanding, I guess, exactly what the role of a facilitator is supposed to be and what that looks like. I want to make sure that if I am in that facilitating position, again, I'm bringing things out from people. I'm going around the room and asking questions and making sure that everybody has a voice. That's not something that I think I've probably been really cognizant of in the past. So that's a good little tidbit for facilitators, to just make sure you're bringing the best out of everyone in the room.
And I think you make a great point there. As a facilitator yourself, you weren't fully aware of those things that we just talked about. So that's one of the reasons we're doing this, is to help bring out that awareness to everybody. So moving on to our next question. Why are presentations frowned upon at Edcamps?
Oh, This is a big one for me. So I recently went to an ed camp where the actual ed camp organizers got up in front of each session and had prepared slides. So why they are frowned upon is because the beauty of ed camp is the discussion, is the networking and learning from each other and not just from one person. So that kind of goes off of what we said on the last question, but it's about learning together and not just getting information from one person. So having multiple either viewpoints on a topic or multiple resources that you can leave with instead of just one person.
Yeah, if somebody's in the front of the room presenting, then they're automatically assuming they know more than everyone else. When you have no idea who shows up to that game. It could be a tech expert, it could be a superintendent, it could be a parent, it could be a student in general. You have no idea. So to automatically assume you know more is a big mistake. And then second, we only hear one voice, right? Only one person saying how they're doing it. And the whole beauty of an ed camp is that we want to find out what the room thinks instead of the individual.
And Edcamps is all about the collaboration and discourse of educators to learn from one another and to develop long-time professional networking. So, for instance, we're all from another part of the state or country, I should say, and without us attending ed camps, etc., we would never be able to collaborate, even using this platform. So being able to grow and better ourselves on a daily basis for our students is part of the whole movement with Edcamps. And if you don't like what's going on, you just get up and go, and you may even start your own conversation out in the hallway somewhere else so you could get what you need instead of just sit there afraid to leave a room because you're not getting what you wanted or expected.
Yeah, I agree. Heidi, you hit like the nail on the head with being able to get up and walk out, because how awkward is it when someone's presenting in front of the room and you get up and walk out and like everybody knows, and the person obviously presenting knows and is like, why are they leaving my session? But I love that Edcamps, it's understood that you don't need to be in a session the whole entire time, that it's okay if you're not getting what you need, or if there's multiple sessions going on and you want to go to a different session, it's okay.
That rule of 2 feet has definitely changed not just my EdCamp experience, but my conference experience. If I'm paying for a conference, you better believe I am now empowered to get what I need out of it, thanks to my experience at EdCamps. That has definitely changed. One thing that's changed to me for the better is if I'm, some of these conferences are expensive. And if I'm going to pay money out of my pocket, I'm not coming home going, well, that was an okay conference. So anyway, Makisha, anything to add?
Okay. So what about I'm thinking about particular session I facilitated on Seesaw. I had like handouts, but they were like examples from what other classrooms how other classrooms was using. I had like storified a lot of tweets and printed it out and kind of handed them out in my session. Is that awful? Was that totally the wrong thing to do?
No, not at all.
Okay.
As long as you didn't monopolize the whole time.
No.
So I'll talk about kind of how I facilitate my sessions, where I go in and I teach phys ed and health, so I know a little bit about movement in the classroom. I presented on it. So when I come in, I'll start with like a quick 5-minute kind of thing of what I do, and then after that, I'm done talking. I open it up to everyone else. So I kind of lead a little bit in the beginning, because let's be honest, people who use it and are experts in the area, we should hear a little bit about how they're using it in the classroom before we just go on. So I think showing those examples are fantastic.
Okay. I think that's good for people to know too, because I started with a little spiel about what it was, the basics of it, and then everybody just kind of put their input in on how they would use it and how they have used it. So,
well, I think that kind of jumps us to a question that I had for a little bit later, so I'm going to pull it up to the top. What is the difference between facilitating, presenting, and being a quote unquote local expert, which is what you were in that particular situation, Makisha.
I think presenting, you have the floor for the whole 30 minutes, the whole 60 minutes, however long the session is. And it's a one-way street. You're giving and you're not getting. I think with Edcamp, everyone's getting and giving at the same time. So you're bouncing ideas off of each other. You're sharing things. Like Makisha had things to share that those people probably didn't have, that were great resources. And she did it in a quick manner instead of taking up the whole session and saying like, hi, I'm Makisha, I'm from Atlanta, I'm working to learn about Seesaw, and doing the whole thing. So what would be cool with your Seesaw thing, Makisha, is if you like model, because a lot of people don't know how to even begin a class in Seesaw. If you put resources in Seesaw for them, had like a little Edcamp Seesaw class, that would have been cool. But I love that you had the resources to share, because I've been to many Edcamps, and the best thing that I got to take away was resources, whether it be a s'more or a QR code or printout, so they're good takeaways.
Yeah, I think with that question and Amanda's answer, we've saw a lot of bad presenters. If a presenter's up in front of the room the entire time and talking about what they do and they have the floor, and it's not a conversation back and forth, then the presenter's not doing their job. But I think you're right. The bulk of it falls on the presenter to carry the load for the entire time that the audience is there. If the audience helps out, cool, go with it. But if they don't, you still have the expectation that you have to be the one carrying that entire conversation and showing them and making that whole session work. Where a facilitator, you're required to do none of that. You can be an expert, or I could walk in and facilitate something I've never heard of 5 minutes before the session, because that's the skill of moving the conversation around, asking pertinent questions, follow-ups, and getting the room together on the same track.
I like, Justin, that you brought up being able to walk into the room and do something without knowing. I think that a lot of times people are scared to even offer up that they'll facilitate a session because they don't feel like they have, a great depth of knowledge on a topic. But you don't have to as a good facilitator, because you're questioning. And if no one in the room knows about the topic, then together you are, finding resources, finding, information, because you're all connected and connecting with each other and sharing and learning together. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, I just facilitated a session last weekend that I knew nothing about because there was not a facilitator, but there had been several people who had asked they wanted to learn about. So, so I walked in the room and I said, I know nothing about this topic, but we're going to come together and we're going to have a conversation. And who knows something about it? And that really is all a facilitator is they're the kindling. Okay, I was told I talk in a lot of metaphors, so here's one. It's the kindling to the fire. It's what gets it started. You don't build a fire expecting to stay warm out of all kindling wood. You have a fire starter. That's what your facilitator is, your fire starter. But what do you guys do when someone does come armed with a presentation?
Well, I think that is a great time to be like, wow, this is a really great resource. Does anyone else in the room have a similar experience, to really generate the conversation? Again, the last Edcamp I attended, this happened, and it took, someone saying like, oh, this is wonderful. I'm glad that you presented that at ISTE. That's a great resource. Thanks for sharing it. Who else has done something? It was on, I think, STEAM. Who else has done something with STEAM in their classroom? Does anyone else have any resources or any knowledge? So I think it just takes someone to have the courage to speak up and make sure that that a session is not changing into presentation versus facilitation.
I would agree with Amanda, and I think we need to educate educators and let them aware that Edcamps are about the conversation and collaboration piece, and not sitting and getting, that you're involved in the entire process. It's not a one-way street.
Yeah, Heidi, I agree with you. I think it's the education piece because I've sat in Edcamp presentations where the people literally came armed with their PowerPoint or their Google slide, and they stood and they did their little spiel for the entire time, and then took a little Q&A. And if you don't know any better, if you don't know exactly what an Edcamp is supposed to be, you don't really know to say anything. So I think it's should be almost a responsibility of the organizers to let the facilitators know the role of the facilitator. And I don't think that's something I've ever heard. Any of the ed camps I've went to, we've never had a discussion about the role of the facilitator. So a lot of people may not know what that looks like,
I think a lot of times, as you know, I've organized several ed camps now. I think a lot of times we get so wrapped up in getting things going that as an organizer, sometimes we forget that people don't know what it means to facilitate. I think that's something that can happen very easily, especially when you've been to a number of ed camps and you start to assume that, you see the same faces at the ed camp, the ed camp, the ed camp, the ed camp circuit, I'm on it. I will admit, if I can get to it, I'm there. Not quite as prolific as Heidi, who will take a plane to an ed camp, but I think it is part of the organizer's role to make sure that the facilitators, even if it's a 10-minute conversation off to the side even, and say, listen, this is what I need you to do. If you see somebody taking over or somebody comes in with a presentation, here's my number, call me, I'll come take care of it. To take that heat off of someone who has volunteered to facilitate and may not know anything at all about a topic. We don't want to see a facilitator get railroaded and then feel like, they're flat in the room. No, we just don't want to see that happen.
And I think it's great, the facilitator skills that we develop, because then that's going to reflect back in our classroom. So I think that's important to understand that as we practice this at ed camps with other educators, that we could take these skills and use them within our classroom to enhance the learning our students do. That's just a side note.
That's a good point. It's a good point, Heidi.